I saw Brothers Karamazov at the Radio City Music Hall. Now, it may not be a successful film, but it introduced me to Dostoevsky. So I just started reading Dostoevsky. But the one that really hit me was Notes from Underground. And that's where I had my connection. I really connected with the underground man.
The most dangerous men are not those who seek power, but those who burn everything to prove they never needed it. Dostoevsky and Scorsese's characters do not merely fail. They pull themselves toward destruction with a perverse sense of purpose. Freedom, for them, is not about achieving happiness, but about proving that they are above the rules of the world, even if it costs them everything. They do not stumble into ruin, they orchestrate it. Freedom as a curse. Dostoevsky's underground man and Scorsese's protagonists, Henry Hill, Jordan Belfort, Travis Bickle, reject stability because they see it as a form of submission. They crave absolute freedom, but are destroyed by the consequences of their choices. Dostoevsky's underground man declares that if given paradise, man would destroy it simply to assert his will. Henry Hill and Jordan Belfort prove this. Given success, they chase chaos instead. They see order as a kind of death, a prison where nothing is left to conquer. Henry Hill could live comfortably in the suburbs, but he chooses paranoia and exile over mediocrity.
To us, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day, worried about their bills, were dead.
Belfort has more wealth than he can spend, yet he keeps going, not for money, but to see how much he can get away with. In their minds, freedom without destruction is meaningless. In Notes from Underground, the underground man begins with a confession that immediately sets the tone for his destructive worldview. I am a sick man. I am a spiteful man. I am an unattractive man. However, I know nothing about my disease, and I do not know for sure what is the matter with me. This self-awareness does not lead him to change. Instead, he embraces suffering as an act of defiance. He rejects happiness, companionship, and comfort because they would make him ordinary. In one of his most striking monologues, he mocks the idea that rational self-interest leads to a well-ordered society. What man wants is simply independent choice, whatever that independence may cost, and wherever it may lead. This is the core of his tragedy. He believes that true freedom means acting against his own interests, proving that he is not a mechanical being governed by reason. The result? He isolates himself from all human connection, destroying his own life out of sheer spite. Henry Hill in Goodfellas echoes this mindset. He recalls his initiation into crime with a declaration that frames his entire worldview.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
This is not just nostalgia, it is an outright rejection of normalcy. Henry sees crime not as a necessity, but as a means of avoiding the dull predictability of ordinary life.
To me, being a gangster was better than being president of the United States.
The discipline of a 9-to-5 job is suffocating to him, and so he chooses a life of chaos, excess, and violence. Yet this freedom is an illusion. The deeper he falls into the underworld, the less control he actually has, until he is reduced to a paranoid fugitive scrambling for survival. The same pattern unfolds in Taxi Driver. Travis Bickle, detached from reality, views structure as something imposed by a corrupt world. He longs for a purifying violence, believing that only through destruction can he assert his own will.
Someday a real rain will come and wash all this scum off the streets.
He sees himself as an agent of change, yet his rejection of social norms leads him to complete alienation. By the end, his desire for absolute autonomy results in a bloodbath, leaving him stranded in his own delusions. The underground man, Henry Hill, and Travis Bickle all share a fundamental truth. They do not want freedom in the conventional sense. They want the power to dictate reality on their own terms, but in doing so, they exile themselves from the very things that make life worth living. Raskolnikov on Crime and Punishment kills not for money, but to prove he is beyond morality. Jordan Belfort does not scam to survive. He does it to test the limits of the system. The real addiction is not power, but transgression itself. Once the first crime is committed, it is never enough. Raskolnikov spirals, unable to escape the psychological weight of his act, just as Belfort escalates from fraud to drugs to reckless endangerment. The game is never about winning. It is about seeing how far they can push before it all collapses. Raskolnikov and Belfort both justify their actions with grand philosophies, but secretly enjoy breaking moral and legal boundaries. Their crimes aren't just for gain, they are tests of superiority. In Crime and Punishment, Raskolnikov articulates his justification for murder in chilling terms. I wanted to prove to myself and to others that I was capable of great things, and that I was not an ordinary man. He murders Alyona Ivanovna, a pawnbroker, believing he is like Napoleon, a man who can step beyond morality to shape history. Yet his crime is not just an intellectual exercise. As the novel progresses, it becomes clear that he enjoyed the act of transgression itself. The thrill of stepping over the line, of proving he is above the herd, was as much a motive as his supposed theory. Jordan Belfort exhibits the same mindset in The Wolf of Wall Street. Reflecting on his meteoric rise, he boasts,
"The year I turned 26 as the head of my own brokerage firm, I made $49 million, which really pissed me off because it was 3 shy of $1 million a week."
Belfort is not just greedy, he is addicted to the game. Money is not the goal. The thrill of bending the rules, outwitting the system, and proving he is untouchable drives him forward. Yet like Raskolnikov, he underestimates the psychological toll of his actions. By the time his empire collapses, he is left scrambling for an escape. Both men start with grand ambitions, but their downfall comes not from external forces alone. They are consumed by the very impulses they sought to control. The destructive ego. Pride and self-obsession blind these characters to their downfall. The underground man refuses happiness to prove a point, just as Jordan Belfort and Henry Hill refuse to quit even when the walls close in. The underground man rejects happiness, believing it's a sign of weakness. His ego keeps him isolated, pushing him toward misery rather than peace, as he's more concerned with proving his point than finding joy. He states, "Man is sometimes extraordinarily, passionately in love with suffering. His suffering is, in a way, his final stand proof that he is not like everyone else." Jordan Belfort in The Wolf of Wall Street exhibits the same relentless ego. Even when facing prison, he refuses to give up his fantasy of power. In his infamous speech, he proclaims,
"I'm not leaving.
I'm not fucking leaving!"
His refusal to let go of this dream, despite the crumbling of his world, is driven by his ego. The need to remain in the identity he's forged blinds him to the devastating consequences of his choices. Guilt and punishment. Raskolnikov, Jake LaMotta, and Travis Bickle all seem to crave punishment, either consciously or unconsciously. They push themselves toward their own ruin as a way of cleansing their guilt. "I killed the old pawnbroker woman and her sister Lizaveta with an axe and robbed them." Raskolnikov confesses not just to the police, but to himself. He seeks punishment because in his mind, it's the only way to atone for what he's done. Jake LaMotta in Raging Bull follows a parallel path. His violent, self-destructive behavior is driven by deep-seated guilt and self-loathing. He beats himself up, literally and figuratively, as if punishing his body can somehow absolve his sins. His outbursts are part of a larger need to punish himself. His pride and guilt push him into a downward spiral of violence, alienating those he loves. By the end of the film, alone and broken, he recites, "It was you, Charlie. It was you."
It was you, Charlie. It was you, Charlie.
Quoting on the waterfront, looking into the mirror with emotionless delivery as he's talking to himself,
I could have had class. I could have been a contender. I could have been somebody.
he acknowledges his own responsibility for his downfall. Like Raskolnikov, LaMotta's suffering is not just external, it is a punishment he believes he deserves. In both cases, self-inflicted suffering becomes a twisted form of redemption, a means of cleansing a conscience too heavy to bear. The illusion of control. Characters like Ivan and Sam Rothstein think they can control life through intellect and discipline, but human nature and fate always bring them down. In The Brothers Karamazov, Ivan Karamazov embodies this struggle, he argues. If there is no God, everything is permitted. He believes in a world governed by reason rather than divine justice, yet his own mind betrays him. The murder of his father, a crime he did not commit but indirectly encouraged, plunges him into guilt-driven madness. He thought he could stand above morality, but the chaos of human emotion and suffering proves stronger than his philosophy. A similar arc unfolds in Casino, where Sam Rothstein believes that meticulous control over the casino and his life will ensure his success. He monitors every detail, predicting outcomes and eliminating risks. But as he admits,
in Vegas, everybody's got to watch everybody else.
Despite his intelligence, he cannot control greed, betrayal, or the violent nature of his associates. His downfall comes not from a lack of skill, but from an inability to account for the unpredictable forces of human nature, just like Ivan, who realizes too late that rationality alone cannot dictate life. Both Ivan and Rothstein believe themselves masters of their own worlds, yet, in the end, they are both broken by the uncontrollable forces of reality.